What's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and welcome to another episode of the Power Hour podcast.
Yes, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 251. Thank you for joining us tonight. Speaking of thanks, big shout out to Paul, PK in the universe, for joining us last week. Great talking to him for the first time. Definitely will have him on again. But, yeah, Brian, we're on the later half of the 250s. How you doing?
Doing good, Chambers. I know when we talked about doing the 250 episode, we do have some specialty beers, so we still have to have a makeup and have those. But yeah, 250. We talked about it very briefly. Considering when we started this, how goddamn inconsistent we were, and now it's been 2 years of consistency. Or is it
it's coming up on like almost 4.
Is it?
Yeah, we started this during the COOF.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Went weekly back then.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were completely consistent then. I know we were closer to being it, but yeah, no, it's been good. Like I said, I think we have a lot more guests. So, Paul, once again, thank you for hopping on. And if you haven't already, check out that episode. Make sure you're following him on all the links. So it would be much appreciated. And speaking of appreciate it, so I mentioned it last episode, but yeah, I was able to figure out friggin' resubmitting the podcast to Spotify because for whatever reason, the thing we use for our website that allows us to broadcast our podcast got an update and decided to automatically make a default podcast called Drink a Beer and Play a Game. And it like kind of replaced the Power Hour and therefore replaced that show on all the platforms. So I had to like try to back into it. Couldn't do that. So I just had to resubmit in Spotify and do a whole bunch of back-end bullshit on iTunes. Either way, please, everything is up there. So if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. We would truly appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, iTunes feed is the same. Spotify is brand new. So when we word out all the links, make sure to click and subscribe.
Yes, sir. So James,
everyone in the Discord was like, "Are these going to be uploaded ever?" Or like, "This one's messed up this week. You got to do this one." And then I was like, "All right, now this one's messed up. You got to do this one."
Yep. Well,
I thought you said the link was up. No, it's a new page now. You got to go to this one now. Every day's wonderful.
Jim,
love doing this internet crap.
It wouldn't be us if there wasn't technical difficulties. Come on.
Oh, I love it. Good old Todd Howard, who was like, "Man, that really was a cursed episode." I was like, "You're right. That was right around that time."
I mean, yeah, it all kind of culminated with that. It's bloody February, Jim. What else can I say?
Right, when we fuck up, we go big.
That's right. It's actually impressive how many things fucked up that episode.
We basically took the whole page down with us.
Yeah. But Chambers, what are you drinking tonight on follow-up to 250? And it better be something good.
Yeah, I am hitting up, some of the old stash. I've had this a couple weeks ago, I believe, but I'm having another one of the Morbid Comfort of the Welcome Regression Triple India IPA by Burial Brewing. 10% alcohol by volume. Ooh. And this is the one with the very cool artwork on it.
Yeah.
The very Roman artwork kind of stuff like that. This is a hazy boy. And, I mean, it's almost like orange juice mixed with milk almost, with how it looks in there. But yeah, I mean, it's very good. It grabs you.
Jim, you might have just inspired me for a future...
Loser brew?
Yeah.
Good, I'll kill myself. I hate milk.
Oh, stop telling me these things now.
It's already too late. You already had the idea, so...
I mean, it could be that, or it could be microwaved Yingling light beer.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus.
I forget, what was that worst thing? When we had those terrible flavored sodas, was it the corn that was the worst? I remember that standing out, because it did just taste like boiled corn water.
Yeah, the corn was weird.
I remember thinking the ranch was going to be bad, and that was actually
pretty good.
Yeah, that one wasn't bad at all.
It was like drinking a Cool Ranch Dorito.
Yeah, it was oddly okay. But yeah, I remember that corn. That's the one that stuck with me.
Yeah, that corn one tasted like you were just drinking butter mixed with grease. It was really
disgusting.
Off-putting.
Yeah. Well, Chambers, what is not disgusting, this is the last of my 3 Floyds variety pack. Now, I do have some left over, but this is the last one for me to try, and it's their Lunar Throne Hazy IPA, 7.3%. It's a bright and juicy hazy IPA featuring tropical fruit aromas and loaded with American hops. I talk a lot about how I really love good artwork on labels, but you know what else I love? I love when a company will not be afraid to change up their styles. As you've seen from 3 Floyds, like with Zombie Dust and some of their skeleton stuff, really cool artwork. Now this one has the very sci-fi, almost NES 8-bit look to it. So I love it. It's a thick boy like Chambers, and it's got that sea foam head. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's already extremely tasty. Does not feel like milk and orange juice like Jim's.
I got the lacing going too. Maybe it's that milky goodness.
I can't wait to pour some milk in one of your beers, Jim. Oh, God, it's going to be so glorious.
And that's when I drive into a tree. But actually, Brian, speaking of death, we have to have a little bit of a somber note, Brian. Childhood hero of ours passed this week, Brian. Mike Jones, also known as Virgil. Rest in peace.
Jim, first, rest in peace. Take a sip for him.
I'm doing it.
Some respect. Is it bad? I thought he was already dead. Like, I legit feel like I heard this before, and then when I saw it, it made me sad again. I was like, God damn it. Like, I feel like I've heard so many wrestlers from us growing up have died that I'm like, oh, wow. I'm actually impressed he was still alive. But, yeah, I was full deep into wrestling when he was with Ted DiBiase and he did the turn. And I remember like
one of the biggest pops you will hear. Oh my God. And when he beat him at SummerSlam, holy shit, that room exploded.
It was such a big deal. I think he had his silver pants or purple and silver. I forget exactly what it was, but I remember
it was the red and white stripes, the classic.
I remember his little combo that I always felt like Shane McMahon kind of knocked off in the future, with his little jabs and whatnot. But yeah, it was such to see like the corner man or whatever you want to call it, like turn face and do that with him. Like I remember like that gave me a different element. Now I started looking at everyone. I was like, ooh, who else could do this? And then when Diesel came along, you figured that was going to happen. But yeah, rest in peace. I never followed his career outside of as soon as he was done with the WWE. Like, what did he do afterwards?
He was in WCW for a while, where he was known as Vincent in the early days of the NWO. So Virgil is a play on Dusty Rhodes. That's his real name. So that was McMahon's fuck you. So they called him Vincent in WCW. That was it. Their fuck you. And then he was famously, just struggling on the indies forever. He had a very short run back in like 2008, back in the company with DiBiase Jr. But yeah, he kind of had a rough go of it for a long time.
Yeah.
And actually, the reason I bring him up is because we actually had a very small interaction with him in the past. So he had a mobile game called Meat Sauce Madness. And it's like an infinite runner beat 'em up kind of game. And I think I like retweeted it. So he actually like DM'd us. He was like, yo, thanks for the support. We'd love you to check out the game. And I was like, already got it. And he was like, please review. And then I played it, and it wasn't really any good. Like, I couldn't even bullshit my way through a half positive review. So I was like,
It's better to say nothing than, yeah, you know the saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's still on my phone, though, and now it'll stay there forever.
I feel like that's more common for wrestlers back in the day. Like, I don't know if wrestlers today, I imagine they're in better working conditions. I may be talking out my ass, but like the life of a wrestler, man, it's tough. It's tough.
Oh, yeah, especially back then.
Yeah. So here's to you, Virgil. May you rest in peace, bud. All right, Chambers. So what have you been able to play since last week, and how are you making out on your Beat 5?
Brian, I am in the thick of one of the biggest episodes of gaming burnout I've had in a long time. I haven't touched a game. I didn't even think about touching a game. I didn't do shit gaming-wise. So makes for great content on a gaming podcast. But yeah, I mean, every once in a while, man, you just hit those times where you're just like, I can't. I'll come back to it later.
Yeah. No, I was I told you before, like I definitely hit that wall pretty hard. This past week though, I've been able to do a decent amount. So I finally sat down, started Duke Nukem Forever, and I gotta say, so far I don't get the hate for it. Other than knowing the crazy how long it took to get it out, like what was it, 11 years delayed or something? It was
At least.
it's a joke in the game, like pretty early on in the game even. Like he's like, yeah, this better be good for 11 years. Like they say it. The humor I could see, like especially in this day and age,
It's a
how
problematic.
yeah, it's definitely problematic. But if you like Duke Nukem 3D, then it's just that amped up. Um, it's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's like everything you would want from a Duke game. So far, I'm only like 7 levels in. I don't know. Like I'll see when I get to the end of it. Is it repetitive? Sure, but is it just a mindless FPS with a lot of interaction with your environment and crazy executions and a lot of cool sayings? Yeah, that's kind of what you would expect. So I'm very curious to finish this off. But speaking of finishing it off, on Twitch, once again, huge shout out. You guys keep showing up, keep supporting, keep giving subscriptions, which I truly appreciate. But Ding Dong Ditch, it was the latest from Torture Star, which is the company Puppet Combo made. It's the same guy, Jordan Knight, who I would love to have on the podcast, and I got to try and reach out to him. He's
From New Kids on the Block?
Damn it. He's made the last, like...
Or NKOTB when they went hard?
I hate you, Jim. He's made the last, like, 10 games for Torture Star, and I gotta say, like, I like his style of games more than the guy who makes the regular Puppet Combo games. It's just... It was a simple game. It's kind of almost a retelling of Babysitter Bloodbath or Halloween, but it has that like really crude, goofy humor. I was able to get all 3 endings on the stream. So fun game. I enjoyed it. And as I said before, I've recorded about another 5 Puppet Combo mini reviews, which will be going up on a weekly basis. Although this week we do have a special treat. And if you're watching this, you've already seen that we've released the Bionic Commando review. So I hope you've checked that out. If not, we'll put the link below. Make sure you check that out. But yeah, outside of that, Jim, I've done some more Dead by Daylight, did some more Fortnite with the kiddo, and yeah, that's it. I've been keeping it pretty simple.
Yeah, I had some free time yesterday, and I was like, I'm finishing off the game room, and it's like 90% done at this point. I actually did something I never do because of my hoarding tendencies, and I went through drawers and just threw out shit that I'll never use. Like controllers I can never get to work, or like old drum equipment that I was holding on to for whatever reason. Like half legs of stands and shit like that. Like I'm looking at this crap, I'm like, why? Why do I have all this? Which is a question you ask me all the time. But yes, I did a lot of cleaning, so I'm getting there.
Jim, and you know what? I will throw one more thing out there. Depending on how my travel works this week, and if I stream this Thursday, which will be yesterday by the time you're watching this episode, I may be streaming our latest Patreon review, which is Toilet in Wonderland. I don't know if it's a stream-friendly game, but I'm going to probably find out because it was our latest review request, thanks to Todd Howard. So, Chambers, with that, what questions do we have from our awesome patrons?
Right, I thought it was called Memories of Fear. Is that the subtitle? Toilets of Wonderland?
Nope. Memories of Fear is the site that makes a bunch of other games. That's why when you said it, I was like, that's not the game. So, yeah, it's Toilets in Wonderland. Or Toilet in Wonderland. That's why I was so confused. I was like, what is the name of the game?
That just shows, as we all know, that Jimmy can't read.
So what questions we got, if you're able to read them?
Patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, where for as little as $2 a month, you can ask a question that we will answer on each and every single one of these Power Hour podcasts. First up, from Todd Howard Sucks. You have to pick a horrible meal for the other person. What are you picking them? Well, I guess I know the beverage now that Brian's going to give me. Made that fucking easy.
All right, let's preface it with it has to be edible. It can't be like shit. It can't be something like that.
Yeah.
If I was gonna make you have a horrible meal, well, obviously you're getting a nice lukewarm glass of milk.
Wonderful.
Perfect room temperature, full milk. The red cap.
Ugh.
So
Ugh.
it's nice and thick. And I'd probably also give you, because I know you hate them, some runny eggs.
Ugh. Ugh.
Extra runny eggs.
Everything in this meal just reminds me of cum at this point. That's all it is. Go on.
And let's also say you can't put the oddest shit. It has to be a meal that's semi believable. So yeah, you got your warm milk with some runny eggs, and I'm gonna give you some nice blood sausage to go on the side. I don't know if you like it or not.
I've never had blood sausage actually.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give you a big plate of very boring English beans, not good barbecue beans, but the boring English beans, because I want you farting away with that warm milk.
I might be divorced by the end of this. Might not be a bad idea, actually.
With toast that hasn't quite been toasted enough, with Vegemite.
I've always wanted to try Vegemite, actually. I want to try that and Marmite. I hear they're both awful.
I do too. I've never tried it, but I just feel like that's a bad take on a English breakfast for you. So there you go.
Sounds good. So for the beer, it'll of course have to be, or for the drink, I should say, it'll of course have to be lukewarm Yingling Light. And then, see, I don't know what foods you actively dislike. You haven't really gone out of your way to actively dislike stuff, but I know what you don't like doing, and you don't like working too hard for too little. So you're going to have nothing but just crabs, like soft shell crabs with no tools to help yourself at all. Maybe and some crawfish.
Crawfish are okay, but crabs, the effort's not worth it.
Yeah, I'm going for the inconvenience and annoyance for you, where you're going for the disgust.
Yeah, and now that I got lukewarm beer, I can't even enjoy it. At least when I do enjoy having crabs, it's usually I like a nice, really cold IPA or something. So yeah, that's gonna suck.
Nope, not for you, fucko.
Yeah, I don't think there's many foods I I think the closest thing would be I've had them enough times, but I hate raw oysters.
I think I've had that once,
and it's just it's like having snot. So
yeah,
it's more
Bri, you forgot the nice crunch of sand too that goes with it.
Yeah, that, and I've had a lot of bad experiences with Indian food when it's in the form of I call it the slop, not when it's chicken or actual dishes prepared, but when it's just a slop, I don't like it like that.
Just curry drenched on everything.
Well, when it's literally in the consistency of refried beans almost, where it's a paste.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. But otherwise, I eat most foods. Enjoy your lukewarm milk and your runny eggs and your Vegemite and beans.
Wonderful. Can't wait. And next up from Burn Retinas. Probably a very loaded question on a broad topic, but this just hit me while looking at the Jurassic Park stuff on my shelf and games based on the Alien franchise. What IP has the best collective titles based on your experiences, and which one has dealt out the worst?
IP that has the best collective titles. Well, let's think IPs, right? So Star Wars has so many games.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great ones, but there's a lot of shit there too.
Yeah.
So I would maybe say Star Wars is, what do you think, 50, 60% good?
Yeah,
And
probably at least. Really, once you get out of the NES era, and people
Excuse me.
have nostalgia for the Super Star Wars games, but I think they're too hard for their own good. I don't find them fun. So, but they still look and sound good at the very least. So it's yeah, I mean, it's even that whole era, there weren't a ton of stinkers. You had ones that were kind of mid. You had the Clone Wars and Republic Commando and Bounty Hunter, but they weren't bad games. They were just you played them and you went, yeah, all right. Yeah. So yeah, there's not a ton of bad there. So that's I guess, like you said, by numbers, it's probably been treated the best.
Yeah, and I mean, there's probably at least 80 games or more for Star Wars. I have to imagine between PC, every system. Like, there's so many. Like, I've looked up that list before previously, considering, oh, we should do a Star Wars month. And I'm like, there's just so many games to choose from. I'm like, you just would never be done.
Oh, that'll take forever.
Marvel has a lot of misses, has good ones.
You know what I would have to say for bad? Probably Star Trek. Because it's kind of a tough series to make something really fun out of. Like the Voyager game on PS2, like people seem to like as a first-person shooter. That game I picked up, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but that space fighting game seems to be like generally decently received. Like all the older games are all like the weird Bridge Commander sim games, and that just seems really boring.
I've heard a lot of good things about Lord of the Ring games. I
Except for
actually
Golem.
have played.
Golem brought that whole franchise down.
I've played a lot of the RTS games, which were excellent, and I heard the what was that one, Shadow of Mordor or whatever? I heard that. That was pretty excellent. A lot of the beat 'em ups on the PS2 era were really good, so I heard that's pretty good. Alien is interesting.
Weirdly enough, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm thinking about like Alien versus Predator is actually a pretty solid IP. Like the Jaguar game, which I have played, it was pretty fun for its time. I really like the 360 FPS one. I love the AVP Extinction game. I think most AVP games I really like. I mean, the arcade game is great. So that's a pretty goddamn solid. Now, if you break it down to just Predator or Aliens as well, it's got some stinkers, but AVP is pretty damn good. So that could be a solid contender.
And almost like maybe wrestling games that aren't WWF, and even WWF, you're maybe 50-50 at that. But like the TNA game was pretty bad. AEW Fight Forever is awful. There's like a AAA game that's like pretty bad from what I've heard. There's like New Japan games on the N64 that use the Aki, No Mercy engine, so they're fine. But Fire Pro is like very divisive. Like it's really well made, but it's also very simulation heavy. So it depends on how much investment you want to put in there. It's not noob friendly, that's for sure. All the NES games suck, even with WWF and all that crap. Even all the ones on Genesis we grew up with, like going back to them, they all suck. We just like them because it's what we had at the time.
I mean, DC has a lot of rough games. We went through all Superman games, and there was, like 2 good ones? Maybe 3? And Batman has Batman has some great ones, obviously, with the Arkham games, and even some of the early Super NES and Genesis beat-em-ups. But even the NES game's fine, but there's a lot of shit in there, too. So.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of a good Flash game. I haven't heard of a good Justice League game. DC's probably not, just like in their movies, they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Justice League has Injustice, but...
Yeah, that's probably their best... Yeah.
But yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, and because, like, it's also tough because there's a lot of games that you can just be like, oh, yeah, that had, like, 2 games and they both sucked, but it's like, yeah, but it's 2 games. Like, what are you going to do?
Now, if you're talking about numbers...
Right, Iron Man? What about Iron Man? You love that game on the 360. That was one of the best birthday presents we ever got you.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. I mean, Marvel has, especially since the release of the movies, the
all their movie milking games are really bad. Like the Thor
terrible.
game, the Thor game was trashed. All the Iron Man games were trashed. Maybe that's the best answer. Like Marvel Cinematic Universe games.
Yeah, that might be. Like now they've had some resurgence with the Guardians, and I still like Marvel Avengers. I know a lot of people hate it.
You and 3 other people.
Fine. Yeah, but Marvel also did give us X-Men Legends 2, Marvel Ultimate
Not an
Alliance.
MCU though.
No, you're right. So yeah, that's it. I like that question.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go with MCU. I think that's the solid answer for like worst IPs for video games. Look at us working our way to that answer. Almost sounded intelligent like. But that wraps up. But that wraps up the Patreon questions for this week. So once again, thank you to everyone out there for all the support. No Krusty Corner this week. No good, smutty enough stories, but that will return. But, of course, like Brian said, a Patreon review request of Bionic Commando is already out by the time you're listening to this. So head on over to Patreon, check out all those tiers for all the bonus content, bonus episodes, review requests, bonus podcast, all that good stuff. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube, check out all the different platforms. Sub to all of them. All the links work now. So if you sub and leave reviews, they'll actually happen. That'll be great.
Thank you, guys. We truly appreciate it. Chambers, you threw in a little downer of a thing early on, but let's keep the downer train rolling. And once again, another big company with layoffs, and this time it comes to us from Sony, laying off 8% of its workforce, which is just under 1,000 folks that were let go.
And like every news story, that it seems like this happened the day after we recorded last week. So, of course, we couldn't hop on that right away. But yeah, there will be impact for employees across all Sony Interactive Entertainment regions, Americas, EMEA, Japan, and APAC, whatever all those acronyms stand for. Several PlayStation studios are affected. So for those of you in the US, all impacted employees will be notified today. This is as of last Tuesday. In the UK, it is proposed that the PlayStation Studios London studio closes entirely, that there will be reductions in Fire Sprite Studio, and that there will be reductions across various Sony Interactive Entertainment in the UK. And the funny thing about London studio, Brian, is that Jim Ryan, the soon-to-be departing head of Sony, the guy who wrote this, Dear John letter to everybody, fucking visited them and did a selfie with, like, the entire crew 4 days before this dropped. So that's nice.
Heads of major companies being dicks. I can't say I'm shocked, Jim.
But, Bri, for those of you who are leaving Sony Interactive Entertainment, you're leaving this company with our deepest respect and appreciation for all your efforts during your tenure. And for all of you staying, we'll be saying goodbye to our friends and colleagues that we cherish during this process, and this will be painful. Your resilience, sensitivity, and adaptiveness will be critical in the weeks and months to come. AKA, get prepared to get paid the same to do a lot more work.
So here's my question. I don't want to default to the easy CEOs are greedy. If we're seeing this amount of massive layoffs against video games, have we hit kind of a tipping point with like the boom of game development and just there's just like we've seen with beer, like there's just too much out there and it's finally at a point where they're like, it could be coincidental that with AI and shit that's popping up with that this is happening if you're using your conspiracy hat. But could it also be literally now we're at a state where people aren't buying as much physical games, there's streaming services, whatever the case is could that be a cause aside from just people are greedy?
See, Brian, that streaming and lack of physical sales and all that would be a good theory if the industry wasn't recording record sales and profits right now. So, I mean, maybe during COVID and the lockdowns, maybe they were hiring a lot more random positions from work from home to make transition easier. I don't know. Like, some people were theorizing maybe they're cutting the fat and realizing they had stuff they didn't need, but I don't know, man. If all these businesses are making so much money, and actually there were a bunch of stories after this one of other smaller studios that were like closing left and right. And even like Toys for Bob just announced, where our good buddy Blade was working, that they're going to be a full independent studio now and not owned by anyone. So there's like so much upheaval and just like unknown going on right now in the game industry that's like kind of crazy. And it seems like with all the money everyone's making, it's just like, yeah, there should be enough to keep these jobs. And no CEO is going to look good with all this stuff when like Nintendo was in the shits, the deep of the shits with the Wii U. And Satoru Iwata cut his personal payroll in half for himself. Salary. That's the word. Salary. I'm stupid. Word's hard. But yeah, so like no CEO is ever going to get away with like massive layoffs while not making, showing some leadership himself after what he did. So I can't think of anything but greed, really. And I'm not trying to say, Corpo is bad, but it is just like, but what's the reason? Like you have no reason to with all the money you're making.
Well, and then, so to your point, though, with record sales, I think this is a case where it's like 5% of the games are making all the money. I think like Fortnite, Warzone, all these like massive whatever, Helldivers 2. Like think of these massive games.
Yeah, we were shitting all over that, and that seems to be like massive.
It looks fun as shit. Since the last time we saw it, and I didn't know what the fuck it was, I've watched videos. I'm like, all right, I might actually, I don't know if it's free or not. But my point is, you have all these games that are like just being around forever, and all you do is keep updating the multiplayer. And my mind goes to like, well, do you need to keep exponentially increasing the size of your crew to meet the demand for that'll keep generating money? Versus true new game development, like people, the casual gamer to whatever, they might not just be into it. And to your point, like they're not going to take risks on a game that's like, I have this cool idea for a game. And they're going to be like, is it multiplayer? Is it season pass? Is it this? And unfortunately, they see the models of what's making money. And they're like, yeah, no, how about instead of paying this indie development team that has great creativity, we'll just keep paying the people that can just keep churning out new skins. Like, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying they're reading, we live in a market-based society, Jim, and people vote with their money. And unfortunately, or however you want to look at it, gaming right now is based on that stuff. And
I mean, here's another thing too. Like, are we finally hitting that apex where like the AAA game industry is just overdoing it with these games and the production costs? Like, does every game need to be a ray traced 4K 60-hour experience? Like even like a beat 'em up like God of War, basically? Do we really need that from every single goddamn game these days? Of course, you run that risk of people bitching that it's not going to be that long or that like bloated, but then they also bitch that it's too much bloat, and then it's too expensive, and then people are losing their jobs. I don't know. I think we're hitting a precipice, Brian.
Well, it's like the movie industry. Like big blockbuster movies, do they need to be $200-300 million? Do you really care about the production? I mean, you can make that argument, but the reality is true indie darling games will still come out. They'll still make waves, and they'll be like shockers of like, wow, can you believe how good Hades was? Or some small development team versus, you're going to expect, with Call of Duty and Fortnite and all this shit. I hope this is a boiling point and a plateau's it really hits a plateau here that you're not going to see any more massive layoffs, because at this point we've seen it from Xbox, we've seen it from Sony, we've seen it from all these other companies. I mean, Nintendo would really be the only other one that could do probably this massive amount of layoffs. I hope that's not going to be the case, but
no, Brian, they have their own ways of pissing people off. We'll get to that later.
They sure do. But yeah, no, I mean, as we've said with all these R layoffs, it's awful. And there's been charts out there and graphs that show like across all these companies how many people get laid off. I like the idea, like what you said, Jim. Some companies are like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll just become an indie studio ourselves. So, yeah. I mean, good luck to anyone that is getting laid off. That's awful. I hope you can bounce back soon. All right, Chambers. So, keeping up with the PlayStation layoffs, one of the big things that was affected by this is the Twisted Metal live service game that was canceled, as Fire Sprite is one of the companies that were faced with these Sony layoffs. And I don't know if we talked about this. I didn't even realize this was going to be a thing.
Well, Brian, the funny thing about this announcement of the cancellation was the announcement of it being developed, because there was no news of that until then. And we talked about this a lot when they had the TV series coming out and all that.
Yep.
Or like, hopefully it's popular enough that they bring the series back. That would be cool. And it looks like they were working on it. Now, it was going to be a, live service, maybe almost like a Battle Royale-ish type game, which, I mean, a Twisted Metal Battle Royale game sounds ridiculously crazy. And that would probably be fun.
Be pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, like the live service model is always a pain in the dick and stuff like that. But, yeah, I would have much preferred a just straight-up Twisted Metal game, but I would have taken anything I could get at this point. But yeah, it sucks. It's dead. The studio's dead. Twisted Metal's on the shelf again. Hooray.
Here's the deal. I agree. I know we both said we want to see a return to it. I do think a Battle Royale Twisted Metal would be pretty awesome. I mean, fuck, we're going to get a basically a battle royale crazy taxi. It sounds like.
I mean, to get a Twisted Metal to run well, though, that would be insane with how much processing power you would need in server space. Because like you want it to run smooth, all the vehicles are going to be moving fast, and then you have all the explosions and destruction in the background and stuff. That'd be fucking nuts. But it'll be cool.
Yeah, my guess is they would definitely limit the building destruction, which would diminish the feel of that. Or maybe it's very limited, like these X number of buildings could have exploded. Well, like you said, now it's back on the shelf. I mean, and honestly, you and I talked about it. Twisted Metal is a game that I have a lot of nostalgia for, but honestly, if it never comes back, it's not like my heart will be broken. It was a thing of the past. It's like Road Rash. As much as I love that game, and we did all those fucking games,
I still think it could work, though. I think it could work. I want it to work.
There's a lot of things that could work, but, you know, I want Celebrity Deathmatch to come back, but no one wants to do claymation.
That game was more fun than it had any right to be. It's kind of a shit game, but it's that kind of shit that's still really fun.
I'm more talking about the show.
I know you were talking about the show, but...
I have the game. I haven't played in I don't even know how long, but yeah.
I have it too. That's a fun drunk game, because then you just like look past the bullshit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, isn't that what we did with a lot of games? But
maybe too many games.
We'll be there.
Oh, and we'll be just as drunk as we always are.
Maybe you won't get lost this time, you son of a bitch.
Well, maybe.
So yeah, announcement. There was a Twisted Metal live service game.
Announcement. It got canceled. Yay!
That's that is basically the Gilbert of Royal Rumble entrances right there.
Who has the record now? Is it Santino with getting eliminated? Like
I was gonna say, I'm not sure if it was Gilbert, Santino, or
it was like Bushwhacker Luke.
But yeah, where he walked in, went out, and then kept walking.
Yep, still did the strut outside.
I am curious, yeah, what would be the shortest? Unless somebody came in there like running in fast, because he kind of went in a little slow. But yeah, this game, that sucks. Being one of those people working on that you even get a chance to announce it. It's like, no, I did. You can't even like put that on your resume. They're like, okay, you worked on a game that never even got announced. Cool. That sucks.
What else you got? Can I smell your taint? Huh?
Damn it, Jim.
Bri, look, you've got to get jobs. You got to get them somehow. And if you want to smell some taints in your games, Bri, do I have the thing for you?
That's where I thought you were going, you son of a bitch.
Because announced this past week by none other than Jeff Keighley himself, the master of the Game Awards. GameSense has been announced. GameSense AI. A sophisticated AI releases real sense alongside your gameplay, including the smells of gunfire, explosions, racing, storm, forest. An upgraded DLC can be napalm, human exertion, ocean, and golf course. And yeah, this looks like a big black box with some spouts on top for releasing smells. Brian, as a man who is the connoisseur and the creator of the Crusty Corner here, this can only be used for good, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Jim,
I can smell my wife, who's Brian.
Well, so
I don't need to leave the house anymore. Why wasn't this here 15 years ago? Brian, the Gooners have won. The Gooners have taken over. It's over. They will be running society from now on.
All right. Well, let's back this up. Let's discuss if this is actually a good idea, right? Like, because it's when you see the comments,
yes.
There's a lot of people that say it's a terrible idea. I think it's Disney or like some other major theme parks that basically do have like scent release things when you're on certain rides.
Yes.
To give you immersion, right?
Well, I'll be immersed.
I don't know if there are. I thought I read before that there are some theaters that have like fucked around with this or tested that out. Like while you're watching a movie, they release certain scents as well.
Yeah, there've always been those like kind of 4D experiences where like they'll like spray water on you like during the course of a movie when like some like big splash happens or something like that.
This is one of those things where I go like, all right, if you remove the oddness of like, do you really want a device in your house that gives sense? It's like, well, how immersed in a game do you want to be? Now, me personally, unless I'm doing like VR, and I'm already like completely not in my room, I don't need like a fucking like a thing that's air releasing bullshit. Because number one, none of that shit's gonna be good for you. It's gonna be like, oh wow, shocker, this is all carcinogenic. But if there's a future where it has this, then yeah. And here's where my fear comes in, Jim. Not only for the perverts out there and that shit, but like, all of a sudden, like your favorite gaming heroes, villains, whatever, they'll have associated scents that are in line with like paid promotions from major cologne and fragrance developers. So it'll be like, and then it'll just be like another layer of like, oh, do you want to smell like fucking Max Power? Then here you go. Like, I don't know. I think it's cool. I do think it is cool that if you really want to be immersed and you had this ability, okay. At what it's showing right now, pretty dumb.
Right.
I would not get this.
How can you play Leisure Suit Larry if you can't smell like the Aqua de Joe you were spraying yourself with, Brian? How?
Damn it, Jim. It doesn't leap to that. We know, yes, there will be a porn element to this, but god damn it, it's got to be a proof of concept shown that it can work with these other smells.
Right, it needs to work with porn that is the purveyor of all technology. Look, why did Blu-ray win and HD DVD die? There was no porn. That's why. Why is VR not where we want it to be at, Brian? Porn is not there yet. Once it is, boom, game over, everywhere.
Aside from someone sending this to you for free, is there a price point where you would actually want something like this?
No, I will not pay for this. I want it for free.
If there was a future...
No, you want to know why I can't buy it? Because I can't trust my goddamn dog to just sit on a couch without destroying it just looking out a goddamn window, much less smelling all kinds of different things coming from my game room and destroying my door.
All right, so let's flash forward, say 10 years. Say your VR headset comes equipped with something that has this ability. So it's like you put on the headset, it has a built-in whatever. Would that interest you in a game? If you like, do you feel the need to be that immersed into a game?
Do I need to be? No. But I mean, right, look, I mean, I think if I had something like that, I'll just wind up looking like Brendan Fraser in The Whale and just like never leaving my chair at that point. So I think that's a Pandora's box I don't need to personally open.
That's kind of what worries me is like we are getting into that like sound, look, not VR. What's the other one? Augmented reality.
Yeah.
Like I saw, dude, I'm not going to lie. You know me. I do love my tech. I'm not willing to be the first adopter of any of it, but those Google glasses are like $4,000, but they're really fucking cool.
What, those Apple glasses?
Is that what they are?
The Apple goggles? Yeah, if you want to look like a douche. Well, you'd always look like a douchebag, so that's up your alley.
Listen, anyone who ever says that, you know what you are. If you use that term unironically in this day and age, you know what you are.
What, douchebag?
Yeah, come on.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Come on.
You throw it around too much. You know what you are.
What? Throw what around too much?
You look like a douchebag. Like everyone looks like a douchebag this day. You're either being the ironic douchebag, the whatever douchebag, but everyone can be a douchebag. And if you're still trying to specify it, then you got your own issues at this point. But those Apple things, number one, Jim, you're using an Apple product in your hand right now. You can't even stop.
Yes, everyone has an iPhone. No one needs the stupid goggles that cost $4,000.
How much did we make fun of people we knew when they were the first ones getting iPhones? I remember one of Juan's cousin got it, and I was like, who would get that? You just paid so much money, like $1,000 for this thing. Why would you do that? And then look at all of us. Goggles or some form of it, we're all going to have at some point. It's one of those things you want to be like the one that's like, that's a stupid idea. And we're going to get
Here's the thing. You don't look like an idiot with a phone.
You kind of do, though, don't you? When you're always like this and you're always like
this.
this.
Well, everyone's like that now, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, so if everyone was following a certain bad leader, that would make it okay, Jim? See, I don't go with that.
You're the one saying you want to be that bad leader. You
no,
like it if you want to be the leader.
I'm the one acknowledging. If you can't say that technology doesn't look cool, then you're
fuck you. I had a Zoom. I know what it's like to have something that looks stupid. So fuck you. I know what being a leader and being different's like, Brian. It doesn't always work out.
No. You didn't choose the Zune. The Zune
No, I
was
did
given
choose
to
the
you.
Zune.
It
No.
was given to you.
It wasn't given to me. I asked for the Zune. I had a
Don't
choice.
you dare.
Yes,
Don't
I did.
You dare. Don't you
That
dare.
wheel sucked. I will go to my grave saying it sucked.
But you never had it, so you can't even.
I used it like 5 times and it was awful. Oh shit, I went too far. Oh, I'm going back. Oh shit, I went too far back. This fucking
Jim,
sucks.
in
Give me
the-
a button. A button.
In the
Button
history
work.
books,
D-pad.
no one will remember the
D-pad.
Zune. Nobody will remember the Zune. It's the same as any other failed like game console or something. Like no one's gonna talk about it. It's gonna be, oh yeah, there was that one obscure thing that tried to compete and it sucked. So just accept it, Jim. Just accept it. But God damn it, you took me off on this whole.
You know what, Brian? Spend your $4,000. Do it.
No,
Look like the douche you are, Brian.
my point is, when you see technology like that, if you combined it with this goofy ass nose, smelling shit and hearing stuff, that is a future I am fearful of. The whole point of this is you're fucking basically at Blade Runner level, where it's like, yeah, nobody wants to leave their apartments and everything. Like that's a fucking weird ass future. So it's like, what is the cutting cord for this? Like, when do you stop and say, I don't want any more immersion? Are we already there? Or is it still a few layers away?
Oh, there's going to be innovation like left and right and more. So
Yeah.
that's what it'll be.
I don't know. This shit is, I feel bad for, I'll just say I feel terrible for our kids. Like, the shit they're going to have available to them by the time we're dead is going to be, whew.
Yeah, I mean, hasn't every generation said that though, Brian? Those goddamn televisions, there are 3 channels. That's the end of society right there.
Were they wrong?
I think it enhanced it, Brian. Where would we be without Leave It to Beaver? You tell me.
Outside.
No, gay. Stupid. Shut up. Oh, look at me. I'm outside with my wheel and my stick. Hoo la-di-da. Happy day. I died at 40. Everything was better.
Oh, Chambers. Yeah, I don't know, but now this is also a proof of AI doing something else. I don't know, Chambers.
I mean, it's getting too powerful, Brian. That could be the argument.
Skynet could be a real thing. You tell me. You tell me.
Could be real. Nintendo could be stolen.
Nintendo, these bitches. All right, so let's.
Right. Can I just say real quick? Thank God these updates all happen today. Thank fucking God. This is actually the quickest news cycle for a lawsuit I've ever seen in my life.
I know. So the big news here is Nintendo is suing Yuzu, who is the company that
past tense now as of today.
They've sued. They've went to litigation. Yuzu is already basically closed the case, or at least has settled on it all. And for those of you not in the know, which I was one of those folks, Yuzu was kind of the main thing you could run on Steam Decks to emulate Switch. There's a lot of back and forth. The real basis is Nintendo was saying, hey, you were circumventing our ability to, it wasn't just pure emulation, because that's what a lot of people are hanging their hats on. Like, emulation's not illegal. It's like, yes, that's true. Emulation is not. However, the sole purpose of this was something that would violate DMCA anti-circumvention clauses, and they were able to pirate brand new games, and in some cases they were charging for ROMs of early access to games that weren't even released yet. The settlement came and went, like Jim said, in the amount of $2.4 million in damages, and also shutting down like multiple servers, websites, subreddits, all these things that basically said how you could use or facilitate using Yuzus. Did I sum that up correctly?
Pretty much. Not only that, we had a totally not written by Nintendo statement that was put out by Yuzu as of 2:30 this afternoon, where it says, "Hello users and Citra fans. We write today to inform you that Yuzu and Yuzu's support of Citra are being discontinued effective immediately. Yuzu and its team have always been against piracy. We started the projects in good faith out of passion for Nintendo and its consoles and games, and we're not intending to cause harm. but we see now because of our projects and can circumvent Nintendo's technological protection measures and allow users to play games outside of authorized hardware that we have led to extensive piracy. In particular, we have been deeply disappointed when users have used our software to leak game content prior to its release and ruin the experience for legitimate purchasers and fans. We have come to the decision that we cannot continue to allow this to occur. Piracy was never our intention, and we believe that piracy of video games and on video game consoles should end. Effective today, we will be pulling our code repositories offline, discontinuing our Patreon accounts and Discord servers, and soon shutting down our websites. We hope our actions will be a small step forward, ending piracy of all creators' works. Thank you for the years of support and your understanding of our decision. Brian,
so
thoughts?
The discourse on this is fascinating. You got the very, very staunch defenders of Nintendo in general, like, well, if you're a company, you should be able to protect your stuff. You got people saying, fuck Nintendo, they're always money hungry. You got the arguments. I think most sane people can agree emulation itself is not the issue here. It's this whole circumventing DMCA, blah, 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 blah. And Nintendo specifically made their games in such a way that you really would have to work around layers in order to release it, which then says if you're able to emulate this on anything but Nintendo consoles, then you're clearly pirating. And they've had this issue with other emulation services like Dolphin and shit like that. Here's my thing. I'm a believer that, well, number one, let me just say, if Yuzu really was, because it's kind of shaky if they really were charging folks these early access. Like, I know they had Patreon and they had people supporting them, but that was not linked to the whole, like, early access. That was its own, like, sub thing, apparently, that some people were selling these games through this. So it's a weird area. Yeah. If Yuzu in any way though was actually saying, pay us X amount and you'll get this early access, then right there, 100% in the wrong. If you wipe that piece of it away, I don't know. Like, I'm of the opinion that Nintendo was not going to gain the customers they thought they were losing. Like, if somebody was like, oh, cool, I have the ability to just play this on my Steam Deck, I'm never going to go out of my way to get a Switch anyway. I don't think Nintendo was losing that customer versus gaining somebody who has an appreciation and maybe eventually would get other games. I can see the argument either way. Somebody works hard for some shit. You don't want your stuff out there for free. So I get that. But just like the old arguments of Napster and LimeWire and shit, music industry never really suffered losses in numbers for what their costs were. You know?
It did.
Really, Jim?
Yes, it did. What do you call it? No, the industry didn't suffer. The musicians suffered in the end because no one paid for music anymore. So the music service thing took off. So now the only way they make money is by touring nonstop. They can't honestly sell. I mean, selling a CD for $20 for 10 songs was always kind of a ripoff. But they don't make any dick for money off of like actual music sales anymore. It's all about like touring from now. Like, the industry's been raped because even the pittance they were getting before, and again, it's an industry problem, but even the pittance they were getting before from actual music sales is completely gone thanks to the streaming model.
Well, I'm talking about the industry, which unfortunately, if you're a performer, then you know what you're kind of getting into. Not saying that's right or wrong to your point. That's the industry. I'm saying in this case, the industry is Nintendo. They're not hurting either way because of you. They're almost about to hit the PlayStation 2 numbers with something like this being out there. I think they're okay. So, like I said, I just look at it like, okay, Yuzu, you were never going to win this thing. I saw your tweet, Jim. I know they got a little ballsy. Whatever came about with them charging folks for ROMs and releasing shit early, like, that was such a no fucking brainer. Why would you do that?
There you go.
So if they hadn't done that though, do I still think Nintendo would have tried to take them down? Yes. But then maybe it would have been more of a case. But where they fucked up was early releases, early access, charging folks for it.
And putting all and it wasn't like this was all open source shit either, where they're like, hey, we're just providing this emulator. We're not providing, tools and crap like that. Like, everything they did was behind a paywall. And, like, here's the problem. You don't fuck with Nintendo just, like, in general. That's very risky. You don't fuck with current gen Nintendo where they're actively making money. Like, it sucks this all happened because they were working on, like, an actual 3DS emulator. That's what Citra was. So now we all get to lose out on a dead console emulator because they decided to put all this development toolkit in, circumventing anti-piracy measures. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom was famously, like, already had access and ways to, like, improve its performance through emulation the day it came out through there. So, like, when you already start fucking with, like, a big money grab, you better have the best lawyers in the world looking over everything you do to make sure you're rock solid, or don't fucking do it. And then once I don't know if Steam or them were the ones, if they went to Steam and went, hey, put us on a Steam Deck, or if Steam, like, shot their load a little too early and went, oh, you can play this emulator on a Steam Deck, because we talked about that before. That could have just put it on their radar, too. So, I think if you fuck with current gen with I don't think you should be emulating current gen, like, ever, because that's when it's, like, actively the development and how these companies are making their money. I get, fucking it's out there, do what you want, company's bad. But I still kind of feel that, like, if it's, like, the active system at that time, not to say I probably wouldn't have stolen it anyway if I had a good enough computer, but that's beyond the point. But it's still, like, that's when you're getting way too ballsy if you're going after active money. Like, you don't hear, like, I know there's probably PS5 and Xbox One or Series emulators already being worked on and stuff. But one, you don't really hear about them probably because it's too goddamn fucking hard to do right now. And two, everyone's like, I'm not fucking with these giant companies. So, I don't know. It's a weird point. Because someone made, like, a really good point on Twitter where they're like, to me, this is no different than saying, like, a movie gets leaked early and then you sue VLC Media Player for being the thing that played it. And I'm just like, that's a good argument. But then you also get into the thing where it's like, all these ROM sites and emulators are circumventing all these anti-piracy things for brand new content. And I go, that's another thing too. It's a tough one. I just think if you want to play it safe and you're doing your development shit, like, don't fuck with current gen stuff.
Yeah, current gen emulation, I agree. It's weird. I think everyone can agree, though, early leaks of shit, that's fucking crazy. Like, that's where you went too far. And if you're going to be like, I feel like the need to have engineers kind of doing this emulation and figuring it out is good in general for long-term game preservation, being able to get shit. The amount of stuff we've already seen that's, like, comes and goes, you need emulation to a degree. And Nintendo is,
Oh, I mean, you need it because none of these companies are ever going to put out their full backlog of history. So you need emulation. Like, if you want game preservation, you need emulation. Emulation is a good thing. I'm just saying, if you're fucking with current gen stuff where they're actively making their money, don't they folded within what, 5 days? It wasn't even
Very
a full.
quickly.
It wasn't even a full week. Now, one, they were never going to be able to outspend Nintendo to fight a lawsuit anyway, so they're probably cutting their losses. But two, they could have just known they were cooked anyway too.
Yeah, I think though, knowing that it's out there, there'll be a kind of a Hydra effect here. They might get cut down. Somebody else will pop up and do it. Like, so it's able to be done. Oh, whatever.
100%. Because, like, there's already versions of these things out there. So it's not like they're going to be getting ripped off hard drives. So someone else is just going to, pick up the ball where they left off and just run with it. Like, it's not like emulation of these systems is going to go away. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm curious. What do you guys think? Are you a very big defender? You're saying that's completely fucked up, good for Nintendo? Or are you saying you don't see the big deal? I'm curious. Because like I said, I have seen the very hard... It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people in the middle in this one. It's either like, fuck Nintendo, or yeah, that's what these pirates get.
Yeah, exactly. That you're right. Like, there's been no middle ground discourse. It's either Nintendo bad or fucking pirates bad. That's all it is.
So stupid. Live in the gray, people. Come on, live in the gray.
But where's the fun in that?
That's where all the fun is at.
You don't get famous being middle ground.
Jim, you live in middle ground.
I know, that's why I'm not famous. That's why you don't get headlines being a Neutronian from Futurama, Brian. All I know is my heart says maybe. All right.
Damn it, Jim. Well, Chambers, things could be worse.
New podcast name, Neutral and the Douche. There we go. Bam.
Damn it, Jim.
It's perfect.
But Jim, you are a douche, so how are you both things?
I know, but I don't get defensive about it like you do.
Yes, you do. All you do is you got defensive earlier.
When? I'm never defensive. I know I'm scum.
You're always defensive.
Never. Just don't give me milk and runny coming eggs.
You're like the most defensive person I know. Are you kidding me?
Negative.
But Chambers, the good news is, while you have bad companies like Nintendo doing the wrong thing, we got the NYPD taking down the real criminal world.
Thank God for our boys in blue, Brian. $5 billion a year in budget, well spent. Why don't you take it away, Brian?
So I have the picture up here, and I've checked this numerous times because, just like you alluded to, Chambers, in your tweet, I didn't think this was real, but it says, recently, your NYPD 90 precinct patrol cops responded to a call of a man with a gun in Brooklyn. Thanks to their swift response and help from the community, an individual currently on probation possessing this weapon and fake FBI shield was safely apprehended and taken to jail. Now, I have the picture up here. So at first glance, you go, well, if that is a real weapon, that's a crazy thing. And then I'll also have the other picture up here, which is, it's clearly a fake thing. If you zoom in on the picture, you can see there's just so many obvious things that this is fake. I kind of can't believe this is still real. Like, I was trying to find, like, is maybe this NYPD news thing, like, making a joke about it?
I searched for that, too.
I can't find any sign. So if it is...
I tried to verify it was a real account, and it's their real account.
It's a real thing. I mean, here's the deal. Yes, I will say, yes,
it's the gunblade from Final Fantasy VIII.
It is, but what I'm saying is there are real weapons that are made like this, right? So that idea isn't crazy. Somebody could make this. The fact, though, if you just zoom in on the chamber, you zoom in on a lot of pieces, and you just look up a quick Google search, this is a fake gun. The only thing I can't, let me play devil's advocate here. Is that blade real or not? I don't think it is. I think it's just a fucking dude cosplaying as, like you said, Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, it's got to be plastic. There's no way that, I mean, it could be, but it's probably just very dull. It could be metal, I guess, because, cosplay nerds do go hard.
That's my only... The gun...
Why did you zip tie a barrel that isn't hollowed through?
The only reason I could guess that is whoever apprehended this, or I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense. And if you even look at the barrel, best case, that's a BB. That's not even the size barrel you would use for a 22. Like, it's so small, it's not bored out correctly. So like I said, my only guess is maybe that blade is sharp enough. It's still not a reason for it. I mean, how many fucking cosplayers, when we go too many games or MagFest, how many of those
you about to say MagaFest?
Yeah,
just,
I was
just
like,
red hats and gun
remember
blades everywhere. Oh,
but
boy,
like,
sounds like a party.
How many people would be arrested there for the shit they're carrying around? Like, it's actually shocks me it doesn't happen more, or maybe it does. But this one, the fact that NYPD News would put it up, and they haven't taken it down. It's been 2 days. It's got 4.3 million views.
God damn. 900 bookmarks.
So, yeah.
Normally you need titties for that.
Here's my question, though. If you are NYPD News, like, not that you need publicity, if you figure out you fucked up, do you still just leave it up there?
Why? No. Why do you do that when you can just double down and arrest anyone who says anything different, Brian?
I don't know. It's fascinating.
Right, you are obstructing justice right now by reporting on it like this. How dare you, sir?
Could you imagine, though, if you were the guy, you're like, I got pulled into jail for a fake plastic gun. It's like...
You're next to fucking Sagat from Street Fighter with a scar down his face. Going, what are you in for? Just being like, Gunblade.
Oh, man. So
I just hope that there was some poor intern that was like, please don't make me tweet this. Please don't make me do this.
here's my question.
There has to be one. There has to be one Final Fantasy nerd among all these cops. Come on now.
I haven't seen it yet. I do want to track it down. What do you think the gentleman, and I will say gentleman, that was using this looks like?
Brian, I'm going to say non-threatening.
What's the general build of this fella?
I'm going to say not a fan of jogs, possibly, most likely. Well, I mean, it's one extreme or the other. It's either the extremely nerdy, skinny build or a very fat guy. Come on, we know what it is. But was there a convention recently?
Well, I don't know. This is so it's in Brooklyn. I mean, we can I really would love to see the follow up of like who this person was. They were arrested. Arrested doesn't actually mean shit. What I will say is like you can literally just be put in cuffs or like put in the back of a cop car. They confiscate it. Doesn't mean they did any charges. Doesn't even mean they actually took them to jail. They might have figured it out. The thing that's interesting is whoever this was already on probation.
That's what I want to know. Yeah.
Like, what were they on? What if he was like previously on probation for like another cosplay item? That'd be kind of funny. But
he's got the big fucking cloud, like super mega sword.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so much about this I want to follow up on.
Oh, he had a Mega Buster. They're like, he's got a cannon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to know what this guy looks like. I want to know so many pieces of this. So you can bet your ass I'm going to keep following this up, Jim. I will not rest.
Until justice is found, Brian.
That's right. And then he comes on the podcast.
Right. When shit goes down, I want to call our boys in blue, but they could do a little better job in fucking maybe making himself not look so fucking stupid all the time.
Here's my question, though. All right, if there was not a convention,
maybe not good for the cosplay weapon and put it on the goddamn internet. Maybe fun of everyone.
But what if this is just a random ass dude just like walking around a Walmart in Brooklyn at like 11 o'clock at night and carrying this thing around?
I mean, how different is that from that? Like, you see these tweets weekly of like a guy with a fucking automatic strapped to his back going to a Wendy's and shit like that.
Yeah, but that's probably going to be in an area in the South where it's like, that's what you see. I'm saying something about this guy walking around with a sheathed goddamn revolver made people go, what the fuck is that? And it's in Brooklyn. So
he's probably a top artist. There's nothing, I mean, that's guaranteed if he's walking around with a fucking gunblade outside of a convention. So.
But this is my point. I'm saying if there wasn't a convention, right? Like, what if he was just walking around with that? Like, I probably wouldn't blame a cop being called on him. Do they need to confiscate the fake weapon? No. But like,
dude gets a solo booth at Denny's, gets his Grand Slam breakfast, and puts his gunblade on the other side.
That's kind of my point, right? Like, at what point do you go, this is someone that probably should be looked into? And turns out he's on probation. We don't know he could be on probation for speeding. He could be on probation for some nasty shit. Like, if he was on probation for previous, like, gun charges, then it might not be so crazy, is all I'm saying. I'm just saying, Jim.
He just needed his fix. He's like that cokehead who can't get coke anymore, so he just, like, snorts Adderall.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I can't have my real weapons? Fuck it.
You need air fix, Brian. Gotta have air fix.
See, this is why he needs the smell-o-vision when he plays games, and he doesn't need to leave his house.
See, he could just have the smell of gunpowder everywhere, Brian, and bound to be with the Force.
So I will be following up on this, Jim. That's all I want to say. But you guys in the comments, let us know, is it a little excessive? Is it embarrassing? What do you think of NYPD's tweet here?
This is Brian's true detective right here.
That's right.
Right, I remember 20 years ago when they were America's police, dealing with 9/11 and shit like that. And this is our 9/11, Brian. The goddamn gunbladers are coming out in force.
Damn it, Jim. All right, Chambers. It is time for our Which is Better segment. And this week, I was kind of inspired when you did Twisted Metal, and I was going to go that route. But instead, I was pulling back, and I said, you know what? Vehicular combat, it all kind of, I'm sure you could point to earlier, kind of started with Road Rash. And you and I played through that. And I remember, man, that first game, I loved.
Would you not say Spy Hunter, possibly? Possibly?
I wouldn't. I would say Road Rash is a better of just vehicle. Not killing each other. Just beating the shit out of each other, I'll say.
All right. Maybe Mach Rider?
That's a better one. But Road Rash is really where it's at. Let's put it that way. So I re-listened to this track. I was like, that's awesome. And I was going to compare that to Twisted Metal. The problem is with Twisted Metal, not as memorable as I thought. And then I was like, you know what? What's a better during that gen example? It's not exactly the same, but I was like, Super Mario Kart. They are two drastically different games, two drastically different styles of music. But guess what? They were both uber popular for different reasons. So, you know, I think of the differences of tone and whatever we've had in this, which is better. This is going to be on the extreme. So,
and actually,
let's do it.
Brian,
go ahead.
To your point, to give you credit, and I don't do that because I hate you, but these are also probably the most famous gimmicky racers on their respective systems. Almost more loved than all the simulation-y kind of racers.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was like, you know what, this is the closest in generation. So what I wanted to do this week, let's look at Road Rash versus Super Mario Kart. I know they're different, but let's hear them out. Then we're going to check out Super Mario Kart. All right, Chambers. So I know these are two drastically different themes.
I think we
both have probably the same opinion, but I'm going to let you go first. Which is better, Chambers?
It's fucking Road Rash. All right, and to me it's not even close, but I'll give some legitimate reasons. One, like, it's a much longer track, it's a more varied track, more well composed, where Mario Kart's just basically one or two bars that are just repeated. There's a little bit of a chord change here or there, but that's kind of it. I actually Mario Kart starts as a nice little track for like the first 10 seconds. And then when it gets to its second stanza, it has these weirdly, purposely off-key notes that are in there when it does that thing. And it's I know Road Rash kind of suffers from that Genesis twang to the extreme, but Mario Kart's music's just not good. Whereas Road Rash is yeah, it's hard, it's heavy, it's in your face, it's it's overmodulated on purpose, and it's a longer track, and you get that tinniness halfway after the 40-second mark and stuff like that. But it's still just a better track. I just didn't like those fucking that's awful. What was that?
Yeah, you said basically what I'm feeling. I mean, with the Super Mario Kart, I'm not as experienced with it, but here's the deal. When I first started hearing it, I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And then, yeah, very quickly, I don't know what it's like they let a kid just run their hands across the keyboard. And I was like, what the fuck is that background noise that is off key that's throwing me off here? Whereas Road Rash, yeah, it has that awful Genesis sound that does get annoying. But, man, that beat, that consistent drum, just
percussion for days, what the Genesis does best.
And you know what? It just hits so much harder. And I do remember when we played, I was like, man, it was tough for me between Road Rash 1, 2, and 3. This first one, though, I don't know. It hit a different way for me. It's nothing to say about the games. You can have your opinion about the game and the gameplay.
Both
but I think it's pretty clear. Road Rash, it's a better song. I would love to hear any of you that are staunch defenders of the Super Mario Kart theme, because
I think you're more likely to hear people who just hate the Genesis sound chip than would actually defend this Mario Kart theme. How do you defend that theme?
Well, here's the deal, and what I will say is it's been proven. Super NES has way better sound, but In this case, this thing sounds so fucking distorted with those random off key and everything, like you said. And it's only about a 30, 40-second song.
Well, it's weird too because like it isn't like distorted and it doesn't suffer from that normal like Super NES reverb that a lot of their soundtracks do. But like it just went purposely off key, and I think they're trying to be a little too clever for their own good. And I like, oh, look at us, we're wacky and silly, and I'm just like, ah, this sounds like shit.
It's just too messy. So, you know what? Like I said, did a nice comparison here of, like Jim said, during that generation, the two most unique racers of the time. And you know what? This time, I'll give it to Genesis. They had the leg up for once in sound.
Man, I could see the pain in Brian's eyes saying that. Love it. I'm going to beat off to that later.
I'll be honest. When I set this up, of course, I listened to it before. I already knew the answer. But you know what, Jim? Unlike you, I'm willing to go down that road. Damn it, Jim.
That's all I got to say about that.
So, Chambers, how did that 10%er treat you?
Woo, mama. Yeah, I mean, it's a good 10%er. It does not taste overly boozy, but it has a very, very thick mouthfeel and flavor profile. I mean, if you're a craft beer fan, this is one that you will definitely like. This is not a beginner beer over here, but it was very good. And then I washed it down with a few silver bullets.
Nice. Yeah, going through this Lunar, you know, here's the one thing. I don't know what the fuck the deal is. This is a new case I got. It's very odd for me to find a hazy IPA that has sediment from a can.
You don't see that a lot, no.
You can see at the bottom of there, like, there's a nice little pool of sediment. Like, that shit turns me off. I know it's fine. I'm sorry. I don't feel like drinking fucking crud.
And hazies tend to be more of a, like, filtered, processed kind of IPA than normal IPAs when they leave that slop in there. So that's weird.
It's very odd. But either way, it still is delicious. Three Floyds, you knocked it out of the park with this 4-pack. It was Zombie Dust, this, Undead Pale Ale, and I forget the last one. But it was that Oatmeal Stout. Like, for the fact that for that many quality beers, 12 beers for like $16 from a craft brew place, if you guys can find that, go out, get as many as you can, because you will not be disappointed. But with that, guys, we want to say thank you all so much. Once again, please make sure you check out our new link to Spotify. Let us know if you did already watch a Bionic Commando review. If you didn't, check the link below. And if you can, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or iTunes. Anything you write in the comments, we will read on each and every one of these Power Hour podcasts. With that, we want to say have a good night, everyone, and cheers.
Cheers, everybody.